We're diving deep into the top 3 most valuable and rare coins ever found in circulation: the 1966 Washington Quarter Dollar, the 1976 Bicentennial Quarter Dollar, and the 1979 de Susan B. Anthony Dollar. Could be worth thousands, even hundreds thousands of dollars. Each of these coins hides secrets, minting errors. The 1966 Error Washington Quarter Dollar. Imagine finding a simple 25-cent coin in your old change jar, only to discover it's worth thousands or even millions of pounds. That's the kind of unbelievable story behind a coin that has shocked collectors around the world. Hidden in pockets, drawers, and coin rolls for decades, this little silver-colored piece could be one of the most valuable coins ever minted in modern U.S. history. Let's rewind to 1966. America was in the middle of massive cultural change: the space race, the civil rights movement, and the Vietnam War. But in the world of coinage, something big was happening too. Just a year earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint made a historic shift, removing silver from its circulating dimes and quarters. From 1965 onward, Washington quarters were no longer made of 90% silver. Instead, they were struck in a new composition, a copper-nickel-clad coin, featuring layers of copper and nickel bonded around a pure copper core. One known example of a 1966 silver planchet error quarter has sold for well over $10,000, and experts believe more could still be out there undiscovered in old coin rolls or forgotten jars. Imagine that, finding a coin worth 5 figures in your loose change. Another incredibly rare and valuable type is the double strike error. In these cases, the coin is struck twice or sometimes more, causing overlapping images of George Washington's portrait or the eagle on the reverse. These are highly prized by collectors, especially if both strikes are clearly visible. High-grade examples have been known to sell for $5,000 to $15,000 or more, depending on eye appeal and rarity. There's also the missing clad layer error, a fascinating and visually striking mistake. Because the 1966 quarter was made from layers of copper and nickel, sometimes one of those layers failed to bond properly during production. The result is a coin that looks half silver and half copper, or one that's missing the nickel layer entirely, exposing the copper core underneath. These coins often have a rough, reddish surface and weigh slightly less than normal. A missing clad layer error from 1966 can easily command prices between $1,000 and $5,000, with top condition examples selling for even more. One of the most sought-after varieties among collectors is the struck-on-wrong planchet error. During this period, the U.S. Mint was also producing coins for other countries, meaning blanks for foreign currencies were occasionally mixed into the presses. Some 1966 quarters were mistakenly struck on these foreign plankets, such as those intended for 10 centavos coins of the Philippines or 5-cent coins of other nations. These wrong planchet errors can weigh less than the usual 5.67 grams and often have slightly different coloration or size. Values for such pieces can start at $5,000 and reach upwards of $20,000, depending on rarity and condition. Imagine pulling a quarter from your change, flipping it over, and realizing you're holding not just a 25-cent coin, but a piece of American history worth thousands or even millions of dollars. That's the kind of heart-stopping discovery behind the 1976 Error Bicentennial Quarter Dollar, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors for nearly half a century. Let's begin with the holy grail of all bicentennial quarter errors: the 1976 Bicentennial Quarter, struck on a 40% silver planchet. You see, the U.S. Mint produced special 40% silver quarters for collectors in mint and proof sets. However, a few silver plankets accidentally found their way into the regular circulation presses at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. These coins look nearly identical to regular copper-nickel quarters, but they weigh slightly more, about 5.75 grams, instead of the standard 5.67. So if you ever come across a 1976 quarter that looks a bit shinier or feels a bit heavier, don't spend it. It could be one of these ultra-rare off-metal strikes. One verified example of a 1976 Bicentennial Quarter struck on a 40% silver planchet sold for over $19,200 at auction. Some unconfirmed examples in pristine condition are rumored to have reached values approaching $50,000. Collectors go wild for these kinds of errors because they're so visually striking. One 1976 quarter struck on a dime planchette sold for $7,000, while another struck on a foreign coin blank brought in nearly $15,000. Now, some of the most valuable 1976 quarters have what are known as double die errors. These occur when the coin's design is impressed twice onto the die at slightly different angles, creating a noticeable doubling effect on words Liberty or United States of America. A sharp-eyed collector once found a 1976 double-die bicentennial quarter showing dramatic doubling on the obverse lettering. It later sold for $3,000. And similar examples in mint state condition have been valued at over $10,000, but then there are the errors that completely defy expectations, the kind that make you question how they even left the mint. One of the most spectacular is the 1976 bicentennial quarter struck off-center. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly seated in the press, causing the design to be printed off to one side, with part of the coin blank still blank. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin. A stunning 60% off-center bicentennial quarter in near-perfect condition once fetched $6,500 at auction. Another, struck 75% off-center with visible date and partial drummer boy, brought in over $10,000. Even more fascinating are double-struck and multiple strike errors, where the coin is struck more than once inside the press, leaving overlapping images of Washington's portrait or the drummer boy. A perfectly visible double strike can easily sell for $8,000 to $15,000, depending on condition. This is the fascinating world of the 1979 error, Susan B. Anthony dollar, one of the most talked about and surprisingly valuable modern coins ever struck by the U.S. Mint. Imagine digging through your old change, spotting a dull silver-colored dollar coin, and realizing you might just be holding a fortune. Yes, that's right, one single dollar coin, worth not just a few bucks, but thousands or even millions of dollars. Let's start from the beginning. The year 1979 marked a turning point in American coinage. For the first time in history, the United States Mint placed the image of a real woman, Susan B. Anthony, the iconic women's rights leader, on a circulating U.S. coin. It was a bold move, replacing the Eisenhower dollar with a smaller, more convenient version that could fit easily into vending machines and cash registers. The Denver Mint struck millions of these coins, but a few were far from ordinary. Some were misstruck, others struck on the wrong planchette, and a few even carried double designs or other bizarre minting blunders. These are the coins that collectors will pay jaw-dropping sums for. Imagine finding a Susan B. Anthony dollar that's the wrong size, missing part of the design, or weighing less than it should. That's a dead giveaway that it was struck on a planchette intended for another coin. Some of these off-metal errors have sold for incredible amounts. One 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar struck on a Susan B. Anthony half-dollar size planchette sold for more than $15,000. While another struck on a copper-nickel quarter planchette fetched over $12,000 at auction. But then, there are even rarer cases, the ones that make headlines. A few examples of the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar struck on silver plankets intended for Eisenhower or foreign coins have been reported. If authenticated, these could easily reach values of $50,000 to $60,000 or more, depending on condition and rarity. Experts say that, if one in pristine condition surfaced, it could break auction records, possibly selling for over $500,000 or even touching the $1 million mark if confirmed as a unique transitional error. One stunning 1979 off-center strike with full details on the visible portion sold for over $8,500, proving that even small misalignments can lead to massive paydays. These clipped edge coins are immediately recognizable. They look as if someone took a bite out of them. A cleanly clipped 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar can bring in between $1,500 and $4,000, depending on size and shape. And let's talk about condition for a moment. A regular 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar in circulated Ms. 6.5 or higher, the value can soar. High-grade examples, especially those with errors, are incredibly scarce. A 1979 error coin graded MS66 or MS67 by PCGS or NGC can sell for anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000, depending on the specific variety and error.